When the human body lies unconscious on an operating table, something profound occurs beyond the reach of medical instruments. The consciousness, that eternal essence of who we truly are, begins a remarkable journey that transcends our physical existence. This phenomenon has been documented countless times throughout human history, across cultures and belief systems, revealing striking similarities that cannot be dismissed as mere coincidence. During surgical procedures, particularly those involving general anesthesia, the spirit often enters a transitional state. The medications used to induce unconsciousness don't merely silence the physical brain, they temporarily loosen the bonds between body and soul. This creates a unique opportunity for consciousness to experience realms beyond the material world, while medical professionals work diligently to heal the physical vessel. Edgar, the renowned American mystic, described this state as the borderland, a dimension where consciousness exists between the physical and spiritual planes. Through his remarkable readings, he suggested that when the body undergoes trauma during surgery, the soul may partially or completely detach, gaining access to higher frequencies of existence while maintaining a silvery energetic cord that connects it to the physical form. This detachment isn't random or chaotic. It follows spiritual laws that have governed the universe since its inception. The consciousness, freed from bodily limitations, experiences an expansion that many describe as becoming everything and nothing simultaneously. Time and space as we understand them cease to exist. Past, present, and future merge into a singular awareness that transcends linear thinking. What makes these surgical transitions particularly significant is that they often occur in controlled environments. Unlike sudden traumatic deaths, the gradual nature of anesthetic induction allows the consciousness to depart with greater awareness. Many who return from these experiences report witnessing their surgeries from above, accurately describing conversations and procedures they couldn't possibly have known through ordinary means. The evidence for this phenomenon comes not just from spiritual traditions, but increasingly from the medical community itself. Numerous peer-reviewed studies have documented cases where patients accurately reported events that occurred while they were clinically unconscious, their brains showing no activity that could account for such awareness. This boundary between life and death isn't the sharp line we once imagined, but rather a gradual transition zone, a spiritual shoreline where consciousness can move between states of being. During surgery, this shoreline becomes more accessible as the physical body's defenses are temporarily lowered. For those who experience this transition, a profound realization often emerges. We are not merely physical beings having occasional spiritual experiences, but spiritual beings having a temporary physical experience. The operating room becomes an unexpected gateway to this understanding. The implications of this reality extend far beyond medical curiosity. They suggest that consciousness exists independent of the brain, that our awareness, our very essence, continues regardless of the body's condition. The brain, rather than generating consciousness, may instead function as a receiver that filters and focuses infinite consciousness into individual experience. When anesthesia weakens this filter during surgery, many report experiencing a vastness of awareness that feels more real than physical reality. Colors become more vivid, understanding more immediate, and love more unconditional. The fear that often accompanies daily life dissolves in the face of a greater cosmic understanding. This first stage of transition, the initial separation of consciousness from body, sets the foundation for the more profound experiences that follow. It represents humanity's first glimpse into the continuation of existence beyond physical form. The operating room, designed to heal the body, inadvertently becomes a sacred space where the eternal nature of consciousness reveals itself. As we explore this threshold between worlds, we must approach with both scientific curiosity and spiritual reverence. For in understanding what happens when we die during surgery, we gain profound insights into the nature of consciousness itself, insights that can transform how we live each moment in this physical realm. When consciousness separates from the physical body during surgery, it enters a state that transcends ordinary perception. This transition, what many call the soul's departure, represents one of the most profound spiritual experiences accessible to human beings while still connected to physical existence. The process unfolds with remarkable consistency across thousands of documented cases worldwide. As anesthesia deepens and vital signs stabilize on medical monitors, something extraordinary begins to occur beyond the perception of attending physicians. The consciousness, no longer bound by physical limitations, experiences an initial sensation often described as rising or floating above the operating room. This isn't merely a pleasant hallucination, but represents the spirit's natural tendency to elevate when freed from bodily constraints. From this elevated perspective, many report witnessing their surgeries with perfect clarity, observing details impossible to know through ordinary means. They describe watching surgeons work, hearing conversations between medical staff, and noticing specific instruments being used. The precision of these observations has confounded skeptics, as patients routinely recall information they could not have obtained through conventional senses while unconscious. What's occurring in these moments is the activation of spiritual perception, a mode of awareness that operates beyond the 5 physical senses. This perception functions through what esoteric traditions call the subtle body, or astral form, an energetic template that carries consciousness when it transitions from physical existence. This subtle body maintains a perfect energetic correspondence to the physical form, but isn't constrained by material limitations. During this phase, consciousness typically remains connected to the physical body through what mystics have long described as the silver cord, an energetic tether that allows the spirit to explore while maintaining its connection to physical life. This cord, invisible to ordinary perception, serves as both lifeline and navigational system, allowing consciousness to venture outward while retaining the ability to return. What makes these experiences particularly remarkable is the shift in perspective they provide. No longer identifying exclusively with the physical body, consciousness experiences itself as the observer rather than the observed. Many describe feeling more themselves than ever before, despite being separated from their physical form. This suggests that our truest identity exists beyond the body, using physical existence as a vehicle for expression rather than as its fundamental nature. The operating room environment, with its focused intention on healing and precise energetic boundaries, creates unique conditions for this spiritual phenomenon. The concentrated attention of medical professionals, combined with the patient's surrender to the process, establishes an energetic container that facilitates safe transition between states of consciousness. This explains why surgical near-death experiences often contain elements not typically found in other circumstances. During this phase of separation, many report experiencing a profound sense of peace. The worries, fears, and limitations that characterize physical existence temporarily dissolve. Pain vanishes completely. Consciousness expands beyond its ordinary boundaries, accessing a perspective that transcends individual concerns. This state reveals the artificial nature of many human preoccupations, showing how our spiritual essence remains untouched by the dramas that consume our daily attention. The quality of awareness in this state differs dramatically from ordinary consciousness. Thoughts become more immediate and comprehensive. Understanding occurs instantaneously rather than through linear reasoning. Many describe accessing a form of knowing that comprehends whole concepts immediately rather than assembling understanding piece by piece. This represents consciousness functioning at its higher vibrational level, unimpeded by physical brain processes. From this elevated perspective, patients often witness not just physical events, but energetic realities invisible during normal consciousness. Many report seeing auras surrounding medical personnel, energetic patterns flowing through equipment, and the subtle interplay of forces within the operating room. These perceptions reveal the normally hidden energetic dimension that interpenetrates physical reality. Time perception transforms dramatically during this phase. Minutes measured by operating room clocks may expand into subjectively experienced hours for the departing consciousness. This temporal dilation allows for comprehensive experiences to unfold within brief clinical intervals, explaining how patients report extensive journeys during surgeries of limited duration. The initial separation and elevation represent just the beginning of consciousness's journey during surgical transition. As awareness continues to expand beyond the immediate environment, it begins to encounter aspects of spiritual reality that extend far beyond the operating room. The soul, temporarily freed from physical constraints, begins to access dimensions that exist beyond space and time as we understand them. This phase establishes the foundation for deeper spiritual encounters that follow. Having separated from identification with the physical body, consciousness becomes available to experiences that would be impossible while fully embodied. The operating table becomes an unexpected gateway to spiritual awakening, a threshold between worlds that offers glimpses into our eternal nature. As consciousness ventures further from physical limitations, it encounters increasingly profound aspects of spiritual reality, realms and beings that exist beyond material perception, yet influence our existence in ways we rarely recognize while embodied. These encounters form the next phase of the journey, the profound meetings that await beyond the threshold of physical existence. As consciousness ventures further from the physical body during surgical transitions, it enters realms of experience that transcend ordinary reality. These encounters in the beyond represent some of the most transformative aspects of near-death experiences, offering profound insights into the nature of existence beyond physical form. What unfolds in these dimensions follows consistent patterns that suggest universal spiritual truths rather than random hallucinations. The first significant encounter many report is with a presence of unconditional love and acceptance. This presence, variously described as light, warmth, or a luminous being, emanates a quality of compassion beyond anything experienced in physical existence. Unlike human love, which typically contains elements of expectation or condition, this love embraces the entirety of one's being without judgment. Many describe feeling completely known and completely accepted simultaneously, a profound spiritual healing that dissolves lifetime patterns of shame or unworthiness. This presence often communicates without words, transmitting understanding directly from consciousness to consciousness. The communication conveys complex spiritual principles instantaneously, bypassing the limitations of language. Recipients describe receiving volumes of wisdom in moments, understanding that would require years of study to articulate in physical terms. This direct transmission represents consciousness communicating in its native language, unfiltered by physical brain processes. As awareness expands further, many report encountering beings described as guides, ancestors, or light beings who serve as navigators through these transpersonal realms. These entities appear familiar despite their transcendent nature, as if relationships with them existed before physical incarnation and continue beyond it. Their presence provides both comfort and orientation during what might otherwise be an overwhelming expansion of consciousness. Particularly significant are reunions with deceased loved ones, who often appear in these experiences not as they were at death, but in their prime vitality. These meetings carry a quality of timelessness, as if separation never truly occurred on the soul level despite physical death. Many report that these beloved beings communicate that they have been present all along, just beyond the veil of physical perception, continuing to witness and participate in the lives of those still embodied. The guidance provided during these encounters typically focuses on spiritual purpose rather than material concerns. The beings encountered remind the transitioning consciousness of larger soul agreements and evolutionary intentions that transcend a single lifetime. Many return with renewed clarity about their spiritual mission, understanding how seemingly random life events serve higher purposes in soul development. What makes these encounters particularly remarkable is their transformative impact. They aren't merely pleasant interludes, but often represent pivotal spiritual initiations that permanently alter one's relationship with existence. Many who experience these realms report that the boundary between physical and spiritual life dissolves permanently. They continue to perceive aspects of these higher dimensions even after returning to embodied consciousness. During this phase, many experience a comprehensive life review, not as judgment, but as spiritual integration. Unlike linear memory, this review allows consciousness to experience events from multiple perspectives simultaneously, including the impact of one's actions on others. This multidimensional perception reveals the interconnected nature of all relationships and the ripple effects of choices made throughout life. Many describe feeling both their own emotions and those of others affected by their actions, a profound lesson in empathy and spiritual accountability. What distinguishes these life reviews from ordinary remembering is their holographic quality. Events aren't merely recalled but re-experienced with full emotional and spiritual significance. This comprehensive perception allows the integration of life lessons at a soul level, rather than merely intellectual understanding. Many report that this process reveals patterns and purposes previously hidden within seemingly random life events. As consciousness continues its journey beyond physical limitations, many encounter what might be described as spiritual libraries or repositories of universal knowledge. These appear as realms where all information exists simultaneously, accessible not through sequential learning but through resonance with specific vibrations of awareness. Many report accessing knowledge about cosmic processes, spiritual laws, and the interconnected nature of all existence. Understanding that feels remembered rather than newly acquired. Time in these dimensions operates differently than in physical existence. Rather than flowing linearly from past to future, it appears to exist as an eternal present where all possibilities exist simultaneously. This perspective reveals the illusory nature of time as experienced in embodiment, showing how what we perceive as separate moments actually represents aspects of a unified whole viewed through the limited lens of physical perception. Many who journey to these realms report encountering a choice point, a threshold where decisions about returning to physical existence occur. Unlike simplistic depictions of being sent back, these choice points often involve complex spiritual negotiations about unfinished purposes and continuing contributions to collective evolution. The decision to return typically centers on commitments to others still in physical form or incomplete aspects of soul development that require further embodied experience. What becomes clear through these encounters is that consciousness exists within a vast spiritual ecosystem, an interconnected field of awareness where individual identity persists while simultaneously participating in collective intelligence. This revelation transforms understanding of both individuality and unity, showing how both exist simultaneously rather than in opposition. These encounters reveal that consciousness doesn't merely survive physical death, but thrives in dimensions where its capabilities expand beyond bodily limitations. The operating room becomes an unexpected portal to these spiritual revelations, offering glimpses into the continuing journey of consciousness beyond what we call death. Through surgical transitions, ancient spiritual teachings about the eternal nature of the soul receive contemporary confirmation through direct experience. When medical intervention succeeds in stabilizing a failing body, consciousness often experiences what many describe as a forced return, a compelling pull back into physical form that can feel both jarring and profound. This transition represents one of the most significant spiritual thresholds humans can consciously cross, while maintaining continuity of awareness between realms. The process of reintegration carries spiritual lessons as meaningful as the departure itself. Many describe this return as encountering a sudden decision point, a moment of cosmic choice that arrives with unexpected swiftness. Unlike the gradual expansion experienced during departure, the return often comes as an abrupt shift in awareness. Some report hearing medical personnel announcing vital signs stabilizing or feeling the physical impact of defibrillation at the exact moment this transition occurs. This synchronicity between spiritual experience and physical intervention suggests an interconnection between realms that transcends conventional understanding. The actual sensation of return varies widely in subjective experience. Some describe feeling pulled through a tunnel of light in reverse, moving from expansive awareness back toward the limitations of physical form. Others report a sensation of clicking or snapping back into the body, an almost mechanical re-engagement with physical systems. What remains consistent across thousands of accounts is the sense of transition between fundamentally different states of being, often accompanied by resistance to returning. This resistance doesn't typically stem from fear, but rather from reluctance to leave the state of expanded awareness, unconditional love, and cosmic understanding encountered beyond physical limitations. Many report feeling that returning to embodiment means accepting significant constraints on consciousness, trading limitless perception for the narrow focus required by physical existence. The soul, having briefly experienced its natural state of expansive awareness, often demonstrates reluctance to resume the limitations of embodied life. What makes this return particularly significant is that it represents consciousness, making the same transition that occurs at physical birth, but with full awareness rather than the forgetting that typically accompanies incarnation. This conscious crossing of the threshold between spiritual and physical existence provides rare insights into the incarnation process itself, revealing how consciousness adapts to the limitations of physical form. Upon reintegration with the physical body, many experience a period of adjustment as awareness reconnects with neurological systems. This reconnection often occurs in stages rather than instantaneously, explaining why many report continued dual awareness, perceiving both physical and spiritual dimensions simultaneously during early recovery from surgery. This overlapping perception can persist for days or even weeks as consciousness fully reestablishes its connection with physical systems. The medical community increasingly recognizes these transitional states not as hallucinations, but as genuine consciousness phenomena requiring specific support. Progressive medical institutions now train staff to validate rather than dismiss these experiences, recognizing their potential for facilitating healing beyond mere physical recovery. This represents a significant evolution in understanding the relationship between consciousness and healing. One of the most profound aspects of the return involves carrying wisdom from expanded states back into everyday awareness. Many report that certain insights, particularly those involving life purpose, compassion, and spiritual understanding, translate into embodied consciousness, despite the general narrowing of perception that accompanies return. These translated insights often catalyze significant life changes, relationship healings, and spiritual awakening that persist long after physical recovery. The forced return often brings an unexpected gift, the dissolution of death anxiety. Having experienced consciousness continuing beyond physical limitations, many develop unshakable certainty about the continuity of awareness beyond bodily death. This certainty transforms not just philosophical understanding, but everyday living, allowing fuller engagement with life unconstrained by fear of its ending. This represents one of the most practical spiritual benefits of these experiences. Many spiritual traditions worldwide recognize these surgical transitions as opportunities for accelerated soul development. What might require decades of dedicated spiritual practice to achieve in terms of expanded awareness can occur spontaneously through these brief journeys beyond physical limitations. The operating room becomes an unexpected initiation chamber, a sacred space where veils between worlds temporarily thin, allowing consciousness to access its greater dimensions. The challenges of reintegration extend beyond the immediate return. Many struggle to reconcile expanded awareness with conventional reality frameworks. Relationships often require renegotiation as values shift from material achievement towards spiritual authenticity. Career paths frequently change as returned consciousness prioritizes meaning over external measures of success. These adjustments represent the practical integration of spiritual insights into embodied life. Perhaps most significantly, the forced return reveals the purposeful nature of physical existence itself. Many report returning with clear understanding that embodiment serves specific evolutionary purposes for consciousness, providing experiences impossible in non-physical realms. This perspective transforms the relationship with physical limitations from frustration to appreciation for their role in soul development. The medical crisis that precipitates these experiences often reveals itself as spiritually orchestrated rather than random misfortune. Many recognize in retrospect how the entire surgical journey, from initial diagnosis through recovery, served as a curriculum precisely tailored to their spiritual development needs. This recognition transforms understanding of suffering from meaningless accident to purposeful catalyst. What becomes clear through the forced return is that consciousness doesn't merely survive physical challenges, but potentially evolves through them. The operating room becomes not just a place of physical healing, but a threshold between dimensions of existence, a sacred space where ancient spiritual understandings receive contemporary validation through direct experience. As humanity continues exploring these threshold experiences, we gradually construct bridges between scientific and spiritual understandings of consciousness. The operating room, with its precise monitoring capabilities and controlled conditions, provides ideal circumstances for documenting these transitions between states of being. Through these experiences, we glimpse the greater journey of consciousness that extends far beyond a single lifetime, offering profound reassurance about our eternal nature beyond physical form. If these insights have touched your soul, remember, the that spiritual awakening is not a solitary path. Subscribe now to join our community of seekers and receive more wisdom about consciousness beyond physical limits. Share your own experiences or questions in the comments below. Your story may be exactly what someone else needs to hear. The veil between worlds grows thinner when we explore together. Click subscribe and become part of this spiritual exploration. The answers you seek might arrive in our next video.